What's going on today, guys? My name is Russell, and you're watching The Bible Man. If you're new to this channel, like the content I make here, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on all notifications for any future updates here on my channel. And as always, if you feel like supporting me, you're welcome to go ahead and do so. Links are in the description box below. Bear in mind, I did just recently made some changes and updates to my Patreon account. So for $5 a month for a price of a coffee, you can go in the description box below and support me monthly financially on Patreon. Now on to today's video. FYI, this is my second attempt making this video. So wish me luck. Go pray for me. I don't believe in luck. Don't know why I said that. Alright. 5 ways to intimately connect physically in dating without sinning. There are many ways to connect with someone that are not physical. In fact, you can even connect deeply with someone in an emotional way that leads to sin. I will call this an emotional promiscuity. You know what word I'm trying to say. I just have horrible speech issues. I know the word. I read the word right. It just comes out wrong. But that topic is for another day. However, if you are dating, what about connecting with your boyfriend or girlfriend physically? Some people love language is physical touch, and God has wired us to our bodies in a very special way. So how can we engage this part ourselves as we connect in dating? Now I'm going to pause there for a second. Yes, a lot of people, they grow more intimate. They connect better through physical touch. It's been proven scientifically that through physical touch and more time they spend together, that two genders, if they spend enough time together, they build an emotional, romantic, and natural bond with each other through physical touch, the time and commitment they spend together, and other factors that are in that category. And the reason for that, men, we release a chemical, and women, when they receive that chemical, that produces something called oxytocin. Oxytocin is what allows a woman to experience her emotions through sex, kissing, or even physical touch. And that's something to really understand. But as Christians, we got to be careful in this area because that could lead to sin. Too much physical touch before marriage in the dating phase can lead to sinful thoughts, sinful behaviors, and sin itself. So we got to be very careful when we do this. And this is why throughout the Bible, God always comes first. This is how the hierarchy works. First in everything, God is the center of everything. Then the man, who is the leader and the provider. Sometimes in today's world, the man can't provide everything because the economy's jacked up. And there's nothing wrong with 50-50 relationships, especially in today's economy. And I'll explain why in just a second. Third is the woman, and then everybody else. Now back to my point. My point about reason why there's nothing wrong with 50-50 providing is because here's the thing. The average man makes between $29,875 a year to $50,000 a year while being single. That's how much he makes a year, the average man. Now, that's a good 50% of men make that. Now, let's move it up. A good 75% of men make that. right? A good seven, because I said the average man, a good 75% men make anywhere between $29,875 to $50,000 a year. My bad. 75% of men make that. 10% of men make 10 to 20% of men make around 100 grand or more. And a very small percentage of men make above 500,000. Like I would say a good 10 to 5%. So in today's economy, the average man, due to today's world, it's just not going to work out for him being relied on to pay the bills, to do everything by himself. I personally know a bunch of Christians. My pastor, Stephen Martinez, he's married and they split responsibilities. My other pastor, Mike Hoots, they split responsibilities. Pastor Sean and his wife, they split responsibilities when it comes to finances. Not Gloria, that's somebody else. Christine and Pablo, they split responsibilities and they're married. The point I'm making here, there's plenty of examples out there of the man still being able to be the leader and the somewhat provider of the relationship, but things are today different because of the economy, and there's plenty of examples of both the wife and husband splitting responsibilities because how bad the economy is. So no, there's nothing wrong with a woman and a man working as long as they agree to have conversations about issues, trust, talk things out, communicate, spend time together, talk together, make time for romance. And something else I want to bring up, which is extremely important. This is an old saying I've been using for a couple of years. Romance is too hot of an ember to burn forever. But a relationship based on open communication, honesty, trust, loyalty, and being empathetic to each other's situation and life, love, grace, and mercy, friendship, and a mutual bond and respect for each other can last a lifetime. And this is something that a lot of people need to understand. When we live in today's world, we gotta keep in mind that we live in a time when a lot of marriages are going to be a very tough situation where they have to split responsibilities. But when that happens, they have to learn to trust each other, respect each other, love and be empathetic to each other, and communicate. That is very important. Communicate. A lot of the reasons marriages fail is because the communication went out the window. Alright. So in this video, I'm going to give 5 ways you can connect physically in dating without sinning. I'm going to start in the general area and work my way down to more specific ways to make sure you read or watch to the read your Bible or watch to the end of the video. There's a typo. There's a typo. I'm gonna read that one more time, in this very, very special way. So we can engage in this part ourselves as we continue in dating. In this video, I'm going to give 5 ways you can connect physically in dating without sinning. I'm going to engage and work my way down more specific ways to make sure you read. I did it again. Watch until the end. Alright. Point number 1. Do anything physical together that is not sexual. When we talk about connecting physically in dating, we naturally think about sexual empathy, being intimate, basically. Biblically, however, there is no room for any type of sexual being intimate happening before marriage that would be pleasing to God. So, if you are watching this video to know if you can connect sexually somehow in dating without sinning, I'm sorry, you can click off. This video is about how to avoid doing that. Bye-bye. Bye. You still here? Oh, thank God. Some people with common sense. So, if you are watching this video to know if you can connect sexually somehow in dating without sinning, sorry, you're out of luck. That is not a possibility. It is if it's sexually, if it is sexually alright, it's a sin to do it before marriage. You can see this principle outlined in places like 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 1 through 9, where Paul clearly explains that the only two options for singles with a sexual desire is to get married and abstain from sexual immorality until you're married. That's the only exception. Therefore, the next helpful question would be, what defines an act of physical being intimate as sexual or not? Is a tongueless kiss sexual, or is a kiss only sexual when the tongue is involved? Is spooning on the couch sexual? Or is lying on the couch only sexual when there's rubbing and pressing together? The sexual areas of the body together. My best answer to the question like this is to pay attention to what is arousing your sexual organs. As a kiss may not be sexual in some contexts or some situations, while at other times it could be a form of foreplay that is arousing the couple's sexual organs. The overall point is, if it gets you off, don't do it. Don't. If you're getting like hard or you're getting horny, don't do it. Abstain from sexual immorality. Like, doesn't matter if you're thinking it, because thinking it is still a sin. Doesn't matter if you're acting on it, because acting on it is a sin. Avoid it. And if you can't control yourself because you're with this partner, then you need to make some very harsh life decisions in your relationship and reprioritize your life with Christ. And I should probably point out, as Christians, we shouldn't be living together before marriage. So if that's what you're doing that leads to that, then yeah, there's no wonder why you're watching this video. In truth, however, I think anyone is being honest with themselves will know when something is sexual or not. Obviously, certain parts of the body are off limits, such as breast, butts, and areas close to the genitalia. Obviously. And if you're doing that before marriage, you're committing fornication, which, yes, is a sin. Sex before marriage is fornication. Pornography is fornication. Touching each other that leads to one's arousal is fornication. Kissing, if it causes the person to be aroused by the kiss, is fornication. So if it causes arousal and it causes you to commit fornication, abstain from it and don't do it. But big pictures, but big pic. Wow. Okay, I'm just going to read it. Big pictures is giving a man an erection or turning a woman on sexually should be avoided. Any physical activity that would be considered non-sexual is on the table. I'm going to repeat that. Okay? But the big picture is anything that is giving a man an erection or turning a woman on sexually should be avoided because it's fornication. Any physical activity that will not be considered non-sexual is on the table, however. So, something to think about. Point number two. Find an outlet or what's another word for outlet? Or a activity or a date or plan something while you're in the relationship that to engage in physical labor together so you can practice abstaining and staying away from that. But when I say physical touch, I mean like holding hands or like hand over shoulder or side hugs or full bear hugs. It's really up to you. Again, I'm not saying physical touch is off the table. I'm saying that be careful because physical touch can lead to sexual immorality and fornication. So you got to be very careful on how you approach physical contact with your partner. And this applies to both men and women. This is not a message for men, nor is it a message directed towards women. This is for both people because both people have this issue. Yeah. A couple can only talk so much. Emotionally connecting is great, but if you emotionally connect too much for too long, even this could lead to sexual arousal, which leads to fornication. So how can a dating couple use their bodies to connect with each other without sinning? Believe it or not, doing manual labor with another person creates a healthy bond. You can see this when it comes to friends or same sex who work together. In fact, many people are extremely good friends when they work together. But when they move jobs, or a lot of the former closeness fades over time. Why? Because I'm going to read that last part one more time because I'm reading it too fast. Believe it or not, doing manual labor with another person creates a healthy bond. You can see this when it comes to friends of the same sex who works together. Period. In fact, many people are extremely good friends when they work together, but then when they move jobs, a lot of the former closeness fades away. Why? Because the work that once connected them is no longer feeding their bond. For an example, when two female nurses to do something hard together for a brief period of time, after they are done, they will feel closer to each other when they are doing that repeatedly for over years. In other words, you can do something with somebody for a number of years with somebody and build a bond with somebody by doing manual labor. And manual labor, I can speak from this personally. Depending on the person's attitude, there's a lot of people I connected with at Publix because I worked with them personally. Now, what I am not saying date your coworkers. In fact, I would highly advise not to date your coworkers. I think it's a horrible idea. It's a jeopardizing idea, and I do not advise it. I made that mistake by trying that in the past, and it only makes things weird and complicated. What I am saying, however, is to work on physical contact and build a better bond. Try manual labor. Manual labor, excuse me, would help you build a bond and a stronger connection together. And do this. Like, I'm going to give you a couple of ways you could do this. You could volunteer for your local church with the food pantry or Bridge to Hope or food share, or you could put in manual labor at the church by setting up the church together as a couple. Do the dishes together, clean the house together. You do one bathroom, she does the other bathroom. You do your laundry, she does her laundry, y'all take turn. Like, these are just examples you guys can use, but it helps build a mutual bond and respect for each other, so you may get closer together. Just saying. For an example, when two female nurses have to do something hard together for the brief period of time after they are done, they will feel closer to each other when they are when they do that job repeatedly over years. A deep connection is formed between them that other people will not understand because they were not there for all the service they did together. Or perhaps two mechanics have to work together to lift something extremely heavy. If one of them drops their side and the other will get injured, these types of tasks make these men build trust and respect for each other. And that's just a really good example I would use, like, to build a close connection with your partner if you're trying to abstain from sexual immorality and fornication and adultery. All right. Ecclesiastes 4:9 states, "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil." When you toil together, it creates a bond. You can harness this principle to connect in dating as well. Find service projects to participate in. Try to build something useful. Do landscaping together. I do landscaping. Unfortunately, I do it by myself, but concept still applies. Do landscaping together. Do an activity, hobby, game, or anything that involves teamwork. But do it together. So do an activity, hobby together, like hiking or joining a horse softball team or working out. The big picture to do these things together. The big picture is to do these things together with your bodies, and it will help you feel a deeper connection with each other that is not sinful. Point number 3. Spend time alone in wise ways where you will have to resist the sexual urges together. As a Christian, dating couples who are trying to avoid sexual sin, you have to be wise in your alone time together. Nothing good is going to happen at 1 a.m. in the morning in the dark room. Spending every day together alone is a recipe for disaster. I said this before. You should not be spending time together or living together before marriage. You can spend time together, like see a movie every Friday or every other week at your house or his house or her house, however you want to put it. You can have dinners, games, card night, game night, movie night, popcorn night, however you want to put it, but sleeping over is crossing very dangerous territories. However, I also think some Christians go too far when they are trying to avoid the dangers of being alone together. Some will say you should never be alone if you want to avoid sexual sin. I think this is a mistake. For one, if you two lack too much self-control, where you can't spend a few hours together without touching each other or touching each other's private parts, you lack the maturity needed to enter into marriage. Sadly, yes, that's actually the case. If you lack the self-control to have self-control around each other and not touch each other, then you're not ready for marriage. I know that's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings by just fact, but I'm going to read that one more time in case you didn't understand, because somebody was freaking calling me. However, I also think some Christians go too far when they are trying to avoid the dangers of being alone together. Some will say that you should never be alone if you want to avoid sexual sin. I think this is a mistake. For one, if you two lack too much self-control when you spend time a few hours together without touching each other, private parts, you lack the maturity needed to enter into marriage. I agree. Additionally, to really know if you should marry someone, you need to see how you two connect when you are alone. If you always need another person to make your connection work, that is not marriage material. If you need other people to validate your relationship, you're not marriage material. Neither is she. You guys are not meant for each other. Therefore, I think a dating couple should have healthy alone time. Will this create sexual tension? Excuse me. Therefore, I think dating couples should have healthy alone time. Now, will this create sexual tension with them? Yes, of course it will. It will, but guess what? Sexual tension is not bad. You should be sexually attractive to the person you are considering marrying. 1 Corinthians 7:36. Sin only occurs when you cross the line into lustful thinking or sexual actions. In fact, as you both spend time alone and work hard to control your bodies together, you don't fall into sexual sin. This will actually become a way for you to connect physically without sinning. Honing the Lord or relying on the Lord with your bodies is an act of worship, as states in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Worshiping God with another person will connect you two. It really will. With all that said, please heed this warning. Resisting sexual tension is physical. Resisting sexual tension is physical strain. I can't pronounce the word. I think I made a typo again. Which is why you shouldn't push it and be alone too long or too late, or when you are not emotionally prepared to resist your body's and natural urges. But the big picture, as you seek to honor the Lord with your bodies together, 1 Corinthians 9, verse 27, you will feel closer to each other in the process because you're both using your bodies together in a holy way. Point number 4. Share acts of physical affection that you would do in front of your pastor. So, what am I saying? So, what are some specific physical acts that you can show affection that are not sexual? As I said in point 1, The question that will be answered differently by the different people. A good rule of thumb, however, is to imagine how you would feel if someone else was in the room when you were dating that physical act. For an example, would you be holding each other like that if your pastor was present? Would that perk on the lip be appropriate goodbye kiss, or would it make your pastor and you two uncomfortable to be kissing like that in front of him? While each of you must pay attention to your own bodies, what follows is just a few practice tips that I found useful to Christian dating couples. Don't lay down together, ever. I believe laying down together, your bodies will eventually get relaxed and drop your guard. It's a vulnerable position, so don't do it. So I would recommend you either lay down on a different couch where you are not touching, or sit together if you want to be close. Keep your distance from the obvious hot zones. Yes, keep your distance from the obvious hot zones. On the body, butt, chest, and inner thighs, etc. Be honest and straightforward, but be respectful to each other's boundaries and emotions. You want to be attracted to each other, but when you're not married yet, you have to know when to call it quits before you lose control and fall into sin, as it states in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. Point number 5. But before we get into point number 5, I want to go back a few things. The reason I'm bringing this all up, there's this loose idea that I don't need to wait until marriage to have sex. I can do all these things, all these practices while we're dating. And the truth is, God calls us to act and behave a certain way. And there are rules we have to follow as Christians. If not, anyone can get into heaven. If not, pastors will be preaching, if you lie, don't worry, you can get into heaven. Don't worry, if you steal, you can still get into heaven. Don't worry, if you practice sin, if you break every single commandment, and there is lying, stealing, murder, rape, incest, bestiality, homosexuality, murder, breaking God, the Sabbath, and so on, every single day without repentance, then you can get into heaven. There are a lot of people will feel like there's no value to Christianity. But yet, when God does put these kind of rules, it's called hate speech. Kind of like hypocritical for people who aren't actually Christians to say that, if you really think about it. But yes, as Christians, we are called to behave and act a certain way. And if we're followers of Christ, something we got to bear in mind, our relationship with Jesus Christ is a reflection of marriage. We follow Jesus because he loved us first. We are saved by grace through our faith, not because of our works, because it is a gift from God. And it's not something that you can just earn. We are also expected to keep God's commandments and statutes, not because we have to or being forced to. It's because it's what's expected of us. Like, I'm going to give you an example. You wouldn't intentionally lie to your wife every single day. Or wives, you wouldn't intentionally lie to your husbands every single day. Or sleep with another partner, lie, steal, cheat, manipulate, gaslight, every bad thing in the book. No, you wouldn't, because you love them. In the same way, we are expected to act the same way with our relationship with Christ, because our relationship with Christ is a reflection of marriage. So in John 14:15, and Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments, he means it. So point number five. Point number five. Focus your physical energy on figuring out if you two should break up or get married as quickly as possible. Yes. Don't waste time while you're dating. Don't be lillygagging or messing around. While you're dating, you need to use that time to figure out if you guys are a good couple and suitable for marriage. And if you're not doing that, then you need to break up. That's harsh. Some people may not like it, but that's just facts. The only reason you should ever be dating is for marriage. Marriage is created for one man and one woman, ordained by God for one man and one woman. Not for a man and a man to get married, not for a woman to get married, or vice versa. Now, these people who are married that way, their marriage may be valid to the government, their teachers, their friends, their family, their co-workers, their job, but in the eyes of God, it's not a legal marriage, and it is an abomination to Him. Perhaps the biggest reason so many people fall into sexual sin in dating is because they are not using dating. They're not using dating in a biblical way. Dating, of course, is not mentioned in the Bible, but marriage is. Thus, to use dating in a biblical way, I believe it must be used to figure out if God is leading a man and a woman to get married or not. When you date, not just to date, you usually end up sinning sexual. Excuse me, I think I read that wrong. When you date, just to date, not just to date. When you date just to date, you usually end up sinning sexually. Because you're connecting too long and in an unfocused way. And then when you sin sexually in dating, this then delays marriage even more because you are releasing tension and engaging in marriage privileges, which decreases the motivation to get married. So it's really a bad cycle when you date in an unfocused way that is being used to engage marriage engaging. Thus, I encourage couples to get on with it, date in a serious way, and get your questions answered. You should break up because I'm reading way too fast. Should you break up because you two aren't going to get married, or should you two get married by being focused on dating and knowing the purpose for this season? You are going to either stop sexual tension by breaking up, or you will be able to enjoy sexual activities because you are married. In other words, questions you should be answering yourself: should we break up because I don't think this person's marriage material or right for me? Or should I continue and get married and have a great marriage together? In the meantime, while you're dating, do what needs to be done to figure this out. Spend time together. Do work. Have conversations. Meet the families. Make money. Move out of the parents' home and get your own place. Get done with school and get closer to that career. Whatever needs to happen, make it happen. To make marriage a reality, get to work. The big picture, your time and energy to know if you should get married or break up is really between you and God. And you really need to understand your priorities and pray to God to show you what you're doing wrong. But if I'm being honest, what you're doing wrong is obvious to everyone. Ephesians 5, 15, 17. If you don't know, keep dating, but If you keep dating, when you're ready to have the answer to your question, that's when sexual ascent usually occurs. Alright guys, that's it for this video. The overall point I was trying to make, we gotta be very careful as Christians when we're dating. You gotta practice physical contact and be emotional open, have emotionals, be emotionally open to your partner through being intimate in different ways, through activities, hobbies, spending time together. It's just something that not a lot of people focus on, and I really think they should. Your first priority should be, and this should be your top priority, is figure out if you're both meant to be with each other for marriage. That should be your first priority. And once you get that priority out the way, you can focus on building a relationship and working on the goal to getting married together. That's about it for this video, guys. Again, if you feel like supporting me, I just recently made changes to my Patreon account. For a price of a coffee for $5 a month, you can support me monthly on Patreon. My name is Russell. Thank you for watching. My name is Russell, and you're watching The Bible Man. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care. God bless.